Today is the 26th day of the month of Kislev. It is the second day of Hanukkah, and hoping that everybody is having a freilich Hanukkah as we continue to daven for Achinu Kol Beis Yisrael, especially our brothers and sisters in Australia. Please God Hashem should send them a refuah shlema, that all of the nisim, we should be zeichet to these nisim. We are continuing at the bottom of Ayin Hey Amud Beis. We just saw the Mishnah on Ayin Hey Amud Beis, and today's Amud is Ayin Vav Amud Aleph, where we're going to get into a bunch of halachas that are very relevant to Hilchos Kashrus Bizman Hazeh. The Mishnah told us that Naga B'Charsha Shaltan or Yiklef Es Megami, that if a little bit of the Karban Pesach touches the clay of the oven, so Yiklef Es Megami, then you have to peel off that area. The Gemara asks the following question. And this is the bottom of Ayin Hey Amud Beis. Bottom line says the Gemara Idmar. It was stated as follows: Cham l'tei cham. If hot something falls into hot something else, for example, hot milk fell into a cholent. Divrei Akol, everybody agrees, Aser, that is forbidden. Why? Because the hot milk is now going to be hot. It is absorbed by the hot cholent, and assuming that there's no shishim to be mebatel it, so if there's nothing to be mevatel, it's going to be aser. If you have a drop of cold that fell into something cold, divrei akol mutter. Everybody agrees that would be mutter. So a piece of cheese falls into your cholent, but everything is cold. Just came out of the fridge. So you fish out the cheese, no problem. Put it away, no problem. If both of them would be hot cheese would fall into hot cholent. So even if you can fish something out, we assume that the flavor has been imparted already, and that whole thing would be aser. What happens if you have cham l'teich tzainin or tzainin l'teich cham? If you have hot that fell into cold and cold that fell into hot. So in this, there is a machlekes Rav Shmuel. Rav says, ilah gover. Rav says that whatever is on top is going to be gover, is going to win. Shmuel says whatever's on the bottom is going to win. What does that mean? Whatever's on the top is going to win. So if hot falls into cold, that's if something hot falls into something cold, then the thing that's falling in that's hot is going to heat up the thing that is cold, and then it's going to be like hot into hot, meaning one of them's hot, one of them's cold. There's going to be some transfer of temperature, and if there's transfer of temperature, there's going to be transfer of flavor. So if you have hot that fell into hot, if you have something hot that fell into something cold, so Rav says ilah gavar, whatever's on top is going to win. The thing that's on top is going to win. If it would be cold that fell into hot, cold piece of cheese that falls into hot cholent, so Rav says ilah gavar. Whatever's the cold thing, that's what's going to win. So there's no transfer of flavor. And Shmuel says the opposite in both cases. Shmuel Amar Tata Gavar. How do we pass on? So Rashi already here. What do they call this? In foreshadowing. Says Rashi as follows. Shmuel Amar Tata Gavar says Shmuel Hilkach Chamlatech Tzayin and Mutter. That if something hot falls into something cold, it's going to be mutter because Tata Gavar, the thing at the bottom, is going to win. Tzayin and and if something cold falls into something hot, aser, that's going to be forbidden. Af al gav, is it now? Says Rashi, but af al gav the hilchos like Rav, even though the halacha is like Rav be isura in all cases of isurim. That when it comes to isurim, we usually pass it like Rav. Baha hilchos like Shmuel. In this case, we pass it like Shmuel, says Rashi. Because as we are about to see, there are two Mishnayos that are going to agree with the position. We're going to get strong proofs to the position of Shmuel. And that is Rashi telling us a little bit about where this Amud is going to be going. To that end, says the Gemara as follows. Tonight, we have a Mishnah as follows. Our Mishnah told us that if a little bit of the Korban Pesach falls onto the Cheres, falls onto the clay of the oven, and then drips back onto the Korban Pesach. You have to remove some of that Korban Pesach. Kasal Kedaitach. And our assumption is that what are we talking about here? That we are talking about a cold oven, right? So you put the Pesach in, a little bit of juice from the liquid of the Pesach ends up on the wall as you're putting it in. It's on the wall of the oven, and then it gets heated up and it's going to drop onto the Pesach. You have to take away that pot that the drippings fell onto. Says the Gemara as follows: Bishlam and Rav, this goes well according to the sheet of Rav, the Amar Ilah Gover, because he's going to tell me Ilah Gover that the cold thing that was that hit the wall, that dripped down, because everything's still cold so far, right? The cold thing that drips down onto the hot carbon. So Mishum Hachi Yitals Makama, because of that. That's why you have to Bishlam and Rav, it works well according to Rav. It says that the top thing is going to win. Mishum Hachi, because of this, Yitel is becoming. You're going to have to take away some of the wherever it fell onto. Why? What's this far here? The Azal Reitiv Miratachli Lecheres. Because how does this work? You have a hot carbon pesach that has liquid in it. The Azal Reitiv, the liquid is going to go Mirativ Le Lecheres. It's going to fall onto the wall of the oven. It's going to heat up that clay. V'hadar cheres meratach leila roitev, and then the hot wall that has been heated up is going to impart heat onto the rotev, onto the liquid. V'chihadar roitev apesach, and then when the sauce drips back onto the korban pesach, ka mitave pesach machmas chamimusa decheres, there is going to be heat that is added to this Pesach as a result, not of the fire, but as a result of the heat of the oven. V'rachmana amar, and the Torah says, tzli eish, you need to be roasted by fire, v'lo tzli machmas davar acher, and not roasted because of anything else. It has to be all roasted through fire. And here you have some liquid that was heated up by the walls of the oven, and then dripping down onto it. That now is going to, that imparted heat, that's going to be ilah gavar. Right? That liquid was heated by the oven. That's going to drip onto the Pesach. And the Pesach is going to be heated by something that was heated by the oven. But according to Shmuel, that says that the thing that's at the bottom wins. Cheres came in the tzedek, since the walls of the oven are cold. What's going to happen? The walls of the oven aren't going to heat up the juice that fell onto it. In fact, the opposite is going to happen. What's going to happen? It's not going to end up cooking it. What's going to happen is it's going to cool it down, and therefore, what's going to happen is that liquid that was very hot coming off the Korban Pesach is going to be cooled down by the walls, and then it's going to drip back onto the Korban Pesach. All that you had was something that was cooled down by the walls of the oven. There's no lack of tzliasia, because Tatagavar, because the thing that's at the bottom, meaning the Pesach, that's the thing that's going to define it, not the walls, not the liquid that's coming down, but the Korban Pesach that's sitting there itself. Says the Gemara, no. So why would you have to take away a piece of the Korban Pesach? The thing that fell onto it was not lacking in tzliasia at all. It just became cooled down by the walls. Says the Gemara, the Amar of Yirmiyah, like Rav Yirmiyah says, Amar Shmuel, the name of Shmuel, Besolos Risachas. Yeah, but there's also a case of Solos Risachas in our Mishnah, that you have flour that was burning hot. And therefore we should assume that here too, in the case of the oven is hot as well. The issue is not that the oven was cold and it dripped onto it, and then the liquid heat of the oven, and then the heat of the oven now transfers to the liquid, and then the liquid fell onto the Pesach. Opposite is true. The liquid that dripped onto the walls of the oven is further heated by the oven because the oven was hot. That's the case of the Mishnah, and that's why you have to take away a piece of it. That is Mishnah number 1. Mishnah number 2. Tonight we learned Nataf Meirot for Allah Solis. If you have some drippings onto solis, right, onto the flour we just spoke about, Yikma says, you have to take kmitza. You have to take a scooping of it. What's the assumption here? We're talking about cold solis, cold flour. If it's cold flour, this works well for Rav, because we say Ilah Gavar, the top one is the one that wins. That's why you have to scoop it away. the hadar hudrane. What's going to happen is the drippings of the Pesach that splashes onto the solis. So the solis is cold, and the Korban Pesach juice is hot. So it's going to splash onto the solis, onto the flour, and ilagavar, the heat from the Korban Pesach, is then going to penetrate into the flour. V'hadar hudrane, and it's then going to heat the flour around it. V'hadar solis, and this now hot solis, this hot flour that has been heated by the liquid that splashed onto it, is going to umarat chalei lididei, is then going to heat the liquid that splashed onto it as well. V'ka metave roitev machmas chamusa, the solis, and now the liquid is going to be further heated by the heat that is provided by the solis, by the flour that it has now come in contact with. The Torah says tzliesh has to be roasted by fire, and not roasted through anything else. But according to Shmuel, the Amar Shmuel says that the bottom thing is the one that wins. Solis came in its enesi, since the flour is cold. Akurika mekele is only going to cool down the drop of liquid that falls onto it. Why would I need to take away some of the flour? What's the problem? All that it did was to cool it down. Says the Gemara that you have in the parentheses, you could just be mevatel that place, which we're not going to talk about now. Rabbi Yirmiyah says, the whole mission is talking about where the flour that it fell into was resachas, was burning. Okay, tonight we have a mission as follows. What happens if you basted your Korban Pesach with shemen shel truma, with oil of truma? If you are talking about a chabur of kahanim, yachlu, they should eat it. Im shel Yisrael, if it belongs to Yisraelim, im chayhu, if it's still raw, yedichenu, wash it off. Im tzlihu, and if it's roasted, yiklaf es hachitzan, you should peel off the outer part. Bishlam Rav says the Gemara again. This works well for Rav. The Amar ilagavar. He says the top one is winning. That's why klipa is enough. You just peel off the outer layer of it, and you're good to go. Because ilagavar, the oil is the thing that's winning here, and therefore you'd be able to peel it off. Meaning the oil is cold, and the Korban Pesach is hot, and you're going to peel off the outer layer, and that'll get rid of all the oil that's there. According to Shmuel, that says that the bottom one wins. Kevin the Chamu said the Korban Pesach is hot. It's going to absorb all of the shemen of truma. Amai sagle biklipa nitzel gamre. Why would it be good enough just to peel off the outer layer? That's not good enough. Nitzel gamre. The whole thing should become aser. The whole thing should be aser in ganzen. That would be the correct way of making sure that you don't end up accidentally eating shemen of truma. Says the Gemara Shani Sika. No, this is different because this basting is not the same thing as like cooking in oil. So Shani Sika, basically, is different. Because it's done with a tiny amount. It's meaning, what are we talking about here? At the end of the day, it's not that you're deep frying a Korban Pesach. That would be also anyway. All that you're doing is you're just putting a smear of truma oil on the outside. As much oil would be penetrating, even though it is tatar gavra, it's only going to penetrate today klippa because there's only a tiny amount of oil there. Okay, says the Brisa as follows: we have a Brisa that supports Shmuel. And this is the Brisa that Rashi is talking about. If hot fell into hot, aser, that is fundamentally going to be aser. And so too, if something cold fell into something hot, it would also be aser. That sounds like Shmuel. If something hot fell into something cold, or cold fell into cold, you wash it off. something hot fell into something cold. Mediach, you rinse this off. Why? Give it the chamu, since it is hot. Since it's hot. And makerle, while it's cooling down, it's impossible that it didn't absorb something. Meaning the hot thing, if you have a hot piece of cheese, right, that fell into some cold chicken soup, so the chicken soup is going to be fine. But the cheese that was hot, that block of cheese that fell into the to the chicken soup, is going to absorb some chicken soup around. That would need to then be peeled off, because while it's cooling off, it needs to while it's cooling off, it definitely absorb something. Says the Gemara, klipa mia nibai. So at the very least, we should require that you should peel it off. Why is it enough to say that all that you have to do is wash it? You should at least have to peel it. Says the Gemara, no, ela ema, rather you should say like this. The halach is that if something hot fell into something cold, yeah, there you do have to peel off the outer layer. But if cold fell into cold, no problem, you can just rinse that off. And we have another brisa that tells us as follows. We have boiling hot meat, a steak that just came off the grill. And fell into and fell into a vat of boiling milk. And so too something cold that fell into something hot. Also, both of those cases are equally also. Cold meat that fell into boiling hot milk, and hot meat that fell into boiling hot milk. Both of them are also. But if something hot fell into something cold, and cold fell into cold, then you just wash it off. What if something hot fell into something cold? Boiling hot meat fell into cold milk. So in that case, says this brisa, mediach, wash off the meat, right? You have hot meat that fell into cold milk, wash off the meat, mediach. Kevin the chamu, since it is hot, it's impossible that while it's cooling off, it didn't absorb some milk. Says the Gemara once again, the same question. We should require it to be peeled. Peel off the outer layer. Rather say, we answer the same way. You have hot that fell into cold. You should peel that off. Cold that fell into cold, that you rinse off. Amamar. Master says as follows. This is Amarain, saying like this. The halacha is that we just saw this from two brises, that if you have something cold that fell into something cold, just rinse it off. Amar Rav Huna says Rav Huna, that's only true if you didn't salt it. If you didn't salt the meat. Aval melachai, but if you have salted that meat, if it's salty meat, the Amar Shmuel, that Shmuel told us, maliach hareu keroisech, salting is the same as roasting, and kavush hareu kemushal, and pickling something is as if it is cooking, meaning that there is a transfer of flavor that occurs through the salting process and through the pickling process. That melech resech and kavush k'mavusha. If the meat was unsalted, that's when you could wash it off. But if it was salted, so now there's going to be some kind of transfer of flavor. How does this work? Amar Rava says, that which Shmuel says, maliach harei resech, that salting is like roasting. That's only true when you've salted it to the point that it is impossible to eat. Meaning, you've caked it in salt. You are aging it in salt. You're going to wash that off before you cook it, right? It is currently inedible. That's when we would say that malech resech. So if you have an aged piece of wagyu that is cold, you have it in the refrigerator and it's aging and it's covered in that thick layer of salt, and that falls into your milk. That's where we're going to say melech resech. But once you've washed all of that off already, and now you can eat it, like we're not going to say this. We wouldn't say such a din that melech resech, and that there'd be a transfer of flavor if it fell into a vat of cold milk. Says the Gemara as follows, telling us a story. How bar gozla? You have a young pigeon, that fell into a jug of dip. Some kind of cheese, yogurt, something fermented milk dip. Sharia Rav China Berei de Rav Pashrunya. And Rav China, the son of Rav from Pashrunya, said that this whole thing is going to be mutter, meaning this bar gazla, this pigeon, this obviously a pigeon that had been shachted, that fell into this fermented milk dip, and Rav China, the son of Rav from Pashrunya, said it's mutter. Amar Rava says, Man chacham lemisha milsa kiha. Who is such a chacham to say that this is mutter? Ilav Rav China berei de Rav mi Pashrunya. Gaber Rabbahu, not for the fact that Rav China, the son of Rav from Pashrunya, was such a great man. Amalach, I would have said to you, Ki Amar Shmuel, when Shmuel says that salting is like roasting, which cannot be eaten because of its salt, because of its saltiness. But this one can be eaten because of its salt. That's only true if it was raw. Or this whole din is only true if it was raw. Aval tzli. But if it was in fact roasted, already, by klipa, you would have to peel the whole thing off. Meaning peel off the outer layer. And that's only true if it doesn't have cracks and crevices, doesn't have nooks and crannies for the milk to get into. But if it does have cracks and crevices, apparently like this pigeon does, Asr. I would have said it's Asr. And if it's seasoned with spices, I would also have said that this is going to add to the Isser. Asr. Rashi points out, yeah. Bar guzla betavli Asr. The tavli merachele. Because what happens, the spices are going to make the whole thing soft. Umaiti ubali le kutcha. And it's going to absorb the kutach. It's going to absorb the cheese dip, or this fermented dip that you have. Ubargozla tzayin have a kiddush, and we're going to see later that this bargozla was cold at that point in time. But we'll see what we'll learn. Rav says, going on to the page, the next page. Ayin vav Amud beis basar shchut shavin she tzalai basar nevelo kachush aser by timer me hadadi. So, we will get onto this din and all of its applications and implications tomorrow. Wishing everybody a freilichen third night of Hanukkah this evening, and we'll see you tomorrow.